I walked into the Zenith Alumni Gala with a rented suit and no expectations. 10 years since graduation, and I was still the college dropout everyone whispered about. They didn't know I was about to hire their future. My name is Daniel Reyes. I was the kid who dropped out of North Shore Tech to take care of my mother when she got sick. The professors said I had promise. The students said I had potential. But potential doesn't pay hospital bills. So I left. No degree, no safety net, just long shifts, low pay, and a head full of ideas no one believed in. They laughed when I said I'd build something on my own. Thought I was bluffing. Another dropout clinging to a pipe dream. But here's the thing about people who laugh at you. They usually stop when the tables turn. The Zenith Alumni Gala was held in a towering glass-walled banquet hall downtown, the kind of place where the valet sizes up your car before you even step out. Inside, it was all gold light, gleaming floors, and curated success. Everyone was dressed like they belonged on the cover of Forbes. Champagne flutes sparkled like trophies in their hands. I walked in wearing a suit I'd rented the same morning. Navy blue. Tailored just enough to pass. My name wasn't on the welcome banner, and it sure as hell wasn't on the notable alumni wall flanking the entrance. I passed it on the way in, rows of headshots and titles that screamed status. Product managers, partners, founders, advisors. I wasn't even a footnote in that world, but I didn't come for recognition. I came to see the people who once wrote me off, the ones who believed the last chapter of my life had already been written. The high achievers were exactly where I expected, front and center under the spotlight, huddled in glossy clusters. Finance bros with watches more expensive than my car, legal stars who could bankrupt you with a smile, startup darlings with slick hair and self-branded sneakers. Then there was Kara. She used to be my chemistry lab partner, back when we were both just trying to pass exams and figure out what came next. I had a crush on her once, the kind that sneaks up on you, sitting too close, sharing dumb jokes, pretending to focus while your heart keeps skipping beats. She's a tech recruiter now, sharp dress, sharper smile, the kind of confidence that comes from never having to explain yourself. I approached casually, hands in my pockets, wearing the same grin I'd used to hide nerves back then. Her eyes flicked over me once, then widened, just for a second. Then came the laugh, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. "Oh my God, you're still in, what, logistics?" The word hit like a slap dressed as a joke. Before I could answer, another voice joined in. Jason, the golden boy, class president, valedictorian, captain of the debate team. If privilege had a face, it wore Jason's smug grin. "You still delivering packages," he said, "or did you finally learn to code?" I smiled. Not fake, not forced, just enough to keep them guessing. "Something like that." They laughed again, moved on. That was fine. I didn't need applause. I needed time. What they didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that the startup I'd built from scratch was now hiring faster than any of their companies. That the logistics platform they joked about was quietly powering over 600 businesses across the state. That 2 weeks ago, one of Jason's investors had cold emailed me, asking if I was open to acquisition talks. I wasn't, because I hadn't come this far just to sell out. I came to build something lasting, not flashy, not headline-worthy, but solid, quiet power. And tonight, I was here to poach. I circled the room like a ghost in plain sight, listened more than I spoke, heard things I wasn't supposed to. Who was unhappy? Who felt stuck? Who was burning out? Names, roles, hints of doubt behind practiced smiles. That's when I saw Ben. Quiet guy from my first-year engineering class. Always had his head down, always had the answers. We locked eyes. He walked over, drink in hand. "Daniel?" he said. "Damn, I didn't think you'd come to this circus." I laughed. Just visiting. We talked, and then we talked business. Real business. Because Ben wasn't doing so great at his high-paying, soul-draining job. He wanted out. He wanted in on something that actually mattered. I made the offer right there, an advisory role with a seat at the table and equity on day one. He blinked. Are you serious? I nodded. This time, I'm the one doing the hiring. We shook hands. That's when it started. Quietly. Another person heard, then another. By the end of the night, I had 5 serious leads. Smart people, hungry people, people tired of pretending they were happy in golden cages. Jason passed me again on his way out, still laughing, still coasting, still thinking I was just a guy in a rented suit, trying to blend in. He didn't know that the next round of interviews at my company included 2 of his best developers. He didn't know that Kara would forward me her resume a month later, after her startup laid off 40% of staff. He didn't know that sometimes the person you ignore becomes the one you answer to. I left the gala without saying goodbye, stepped into the night air feeling like a storm that had just passed through. They once laughed at me for dropping out. Now, they're refreshing LinkedIn, hoping I notice. Dinner was forgettable. Cold steak, colder stares. I sat at a table in the far end of the ballroom, well away from the spotlight, boxed in by folded arms and forced smiles. No one asked what I did. No one really cared. And that was fine. I didn't come for a seat at their table. I came to see how much had really changed. Spoiler, not much. The same faces chasing the same clout, wearing new suits, but the same egos. Conversations were currency: who you worked for, who you invested in, who knew your name without a name tag, and in all of it, one name kept floating above the rest. OpNexus AI. I caught it in whispers between wine sips, in passing glances toward the corner where the true power players stood in tighter, quieter circles. Have you seen their new demo? Someone asked. They're hiring like crazy, another said. At one point, Kara reappeared near my table, drink in hand, still glowing from whatever high school memories she was living in. She leaned into a small group and said, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear, "We're all trying to land interviews. OpNexus is the golden ticket right now." Jason, never one to miss a chance to flex, added, "They just closed a $50 million Series B. Valuations off the charts." That made the whole table perk up. Even the guy from Bain tilted his head like a dog hearing a whistle. I stayed quiet. Just listened. Let them talk like tourists marveling at a monument they couldn't touch. Eventually, I stood up, slipped out while they were distracted by their own ambition. No one noticed. No one asked where I was going. The night air hit me with the kind of chill that wakes you up. I crossed the lot toward my car, weaving past BMWs, Mercs, and borrowed dreams. Then I heard footsteps behind me. "Daniel?" It was Kara. She caught up, heels clicking, eyes curious in a way they hadn't been all evening. "Hey, sorry if earlier came off. I don't know. Harsh." I smiled, clicking the fob in my hand. My Tesla chirped and lit up. "Oh," she said. "Nice ride." I nodded. "Gets me around." There was a pause. Then she glanced at the logo glowing on the hood. "You work at OpNexus?" Jason's voice cut in from behind her before I could answer. He'd followed too, holding his jacket over one shoulder like some after-party hero. "Wait, are you consulting for them or something?" I chuckled. The logo on my car key said everything they needed to know. OpNexus. Not a place I worked for, a company I built. I turned and looked at them both. Kara, eyebrows raised, starting to connect dots. Jason, face frozen somewhere between disbelief and panic. "You founded it," he said, almost a whisper. "No way." I gave him the same polite smile I had earlier. Something like that. The silence between us felt heavier than anything said all night. Kara blinked. Wait, the logistics stuff you mentioned. Built the back end first. Artificial intelligence optimization for supply chains, then layered on predictive analytics. Now we help major retailers slash distribution costs by 40%. I shrugged. Apparently, that's worth $50 million. Jason's mouth opened, then closed again. For once, no snark. Congrats, Kara said, slower now, like she was still recalibrating everything she thought she knew about me. I nodded. Thanks. Then I slid into the car and closed the door. They stood there a second longer, staring at the tinted glass, probably wondering how they missed it, how the guy they laughed at, ignored, and talked down to was the same guy they were now chasing. I pulled out of the lot, smooth and silent, just a hum of power beneath me. The truth is, I didn't come back to flex. I didn't need their approval. But I wanted them to see what happens when you stop asking for permission. For years, I worked in silence. While they built resumes, I built systems. While they climbed ladders, I laid foundations. I spent nights sleeping under desks, living off ramen and rejection, coding until my fingers locked up. They thought I disappeared. What I really did was evolve. OpNexus wasn't born in a boardroom. It was born in late nights and quiet grind. Born in hospital waiting rooms, where I wrote business plans between doctor visits. Born in the back of warehouses, tracking packages and fixing what the big guys always overlooked. And now they were all scrambling to get in. By the time I hit the freeway, my phone had already buzzed. 3 LinkedIn connection requests. 1 from Kara, 1 from Jason, and 1 from someone I didn't even recognize from the party, but who had definitely been listening. Funny how fast people remember your name when it's tied to a billion-dollar future. I didn't accept the requests. Not yet. Let them sit in the queue for a while. Let them wonder what else they missed while they were too busy talking. Because the thing they never understood was this: I never needed to belong to their world. I came back to show them I'd built my own. And this time, I brought the keys. The next morning, I got to the office early. Not because I had to, but because I still liked being first in. Old habits from startup days, the ones where I was founder, janitor, and front desk all in one. OpNexus's new campus was nothing like the converted garage we started in. Now, we had an actual glass atrium, 3 floors, a rooftop garden, and more whiteboards than anyone really needed. But it still felt grounded, still felt like something we earned, not bought. I poured my own coffee, walked past the quiet cubicles, and stopped at the wall where we framed the original roadmap, sketched out on paper napkins and taped together like a mosaic. Most people thought it was art. It was actually just desperation disguised as vision. At 11 a.m., sharp, our director of talent, Mel, stepped into my office. No knock, just urgency. She was holding her tablet like it was a loaded secret. "Daniel," she said, "we've got some interesting applicants today." I raised an eyebrow. Define interesting. She turned the screen to face me. A list of names filled the display. I scanned them slowly. My fingers froze halfway down. Jason Brightman, Kara Liu, even Dr. Alan Brenner, my old computer science professor. The guy who once told me I had entrepreneurial enthusiasm but no real execution. They were all booked for interviews. With us. Unaware they were walking straight into my company. I didn't say anything at first, just leaned back in my chair and exhaled through a slow grin. Mel squinted. "Should I cancel them?" "No," I said. "Let them come." She smiled like she was in on the twist of some incredible movie, then walked out. I sat in silence for a moment, thinking about the irony. 10 years ago, these people either doubted me, ignored me, or dismissed me outright. Now, they were looking for jobs. I spent the next hour reviewing decks and reports, but I couldn't help glancing at the schedule as the clock inched closer to the first interview. At 1 p.m. sharp, Jason arrived. I watched from the security cam feed, not because I wanted to intimidate anyone, but because I needed to see how he carried himself when he thought no one was watching. Same walk, same smug energy. He smoothed his hair in the elevator mirror, adjusted his tie twice, checked his teeth. He had no idea. We'd assigned a mid-level product manager to run the interview. No red carpet, no executive welcome. Just a standard process like everyone else. Jason probably expected a corner office handshake and a fast-track offer. Instead, he got a whiteboard and a skills assessment. 15 minutes in, our hiring lead messaged me. He keeps name-dropping. No real technical depth, not a culture fit. At 2 p.m., Kara checked in. Still sharp, still stunning, and still playing the same game, charm first, substance second. She told our HR rep she was open to pivoting into a mission-driven org, and that she'd been watching OpNexus for a while. She hadn't. Last night, she thought we were just another buzzword company. Now she was here, resume in hand, like it hadn't all flipped in 12 hours. But the wildest one? Dr. Brenner. When he walked in at 3:30, I almost laughed. He hadn't changed much. Same glasses, same impatient cadence. He didn't even remember rejecting me from his graduate mentorship program. He told our team he admired the founder's courage in scaling without formal academic guidance. Right. My courage. That's what we're calling it now. By 5 p.m., the interviews were done. Feedback was mixed. Jason. Talked a lot, delivered little. Kara. Smart, but too focused on title. Brenner. Impressive resume, but would clash with team dynamics. I sat with the notes, reading them not as a CEO, but as the kid who once sat outside a hospital room refreshing job boards, wondering if any of these people would ever give me a shot. They didn't. And now? Now I was the one deciding. I didn't feel vengeful, just full circle. Like the story had snapped shut, neat and complete. We didn't hire any of them, not out of spite, because we didn't need to. OpNexus wasn't built on revenge. It was built on clarity, on knowing who we are, what we stand for, and who actually belongs in the rooms we're building. Still, I couldn't help myself. I drafted a short email to Kara. Polite, warm, honest. Subject: Thank you for your time. Hi, Kara. It was great reconnecting. While we're moving forward with other candidates for now, I truly appreciate your interest in OpNexus. Wishing you the best in your next chapter. Daniel. I watched the message sit in my drafts for a second, then hit send. That was enough. No bitterness, no ego, just closure. That night, as I left the office, the city lights shimmered in the glass walls of our building. I thought back to every late night, every dismissed idea, every moment I almost quit. And I smiled. Because some people chase success to prove others wrong. Me? I built OpNexus to prove myself right. I sat in silence behind the one-way glass, watching it all unfold. 3 chairs, 3 resumes, and 3 people who never saw me coming. Kara was first, poised, polished, perfectly rehearsed. She smiled like the room owed her something, talked about strategic alignment and value-driven placements, said she was passionate about disruptive companies doing real-world good. I remembered when she laughed at me for working in logistics. Now here she was, pitching herself to a hiring panel that answered to me. She didn't know I was behind the glass, watching, listening, measuring. Jason came next. He stumbled in 5 minutes late, holding a portfolio that looked impressive until he tried to explain it. His slides were pretty, sure, but his answers were hollow. Every time the technical lead asked him about systems architecture, he dodged. Worse, he name-dropped me, said he was personally connected to Daniel Reyes, and had mentored me in college. I actually laughed at that one, out loud. Not enough for them to hear, but enough for me to feel the absurdity wash over me. Last came Dr. Brenner. He entered like a man who expected the room to adjust to his presence. He talked like he still ran a lecture hall, like his words were gospel. They asked him about the neural net framework we developed at UpNexus, the one that changed our entire predictive analytics model last year. He blinked, fumbled, called it the gradient thing. My CTO wrote in the notes, "No clue how our tech works, only wants the name on his resume." After the last interview ended, I left the observation room and walked down the hallway toward the boardroom. My steps were slow, steady, deliberate. I pushed the door open. They were all seated around the table, sipping bottled water, still mid-conversation. Then they saw me. Kara's eyes widened first. Jason's mouth opened. Dr. Brenner blinked like he'd seen a ghost. No one spoke, so I did. "Yes," I said calmly. "CEO of UpNexus, and also the person you all said would never amount to anything." Silence. The thick kind. The kind that presses against the walls. Kara's voice cracked just a little. "Daniel?" She sounded like she was hoping I was kidding, or hallucinating. Jason leaned forward, color draining from his face. "Wait, you built this?" I smiled, not angry, just honest. "No," I said, "I rebuilt it, after you all stepped on me." That landed like thunder. Jason sat back hard in his chair. Kara stared down at her hands. Dr. Brenner cleared his throat. "Well, I suppose this is unexpected." I looked at him. The same man who once told me I'd never succeed without credentials, who called my decision to leave school reckless and short-sighted. "No, doctor," I said. "What's unexpected is that someone who rejected me from his mentorship program now wants mentorship from me." He looked away. I wasn't there to humiliate them. That wasn't the point. This wasn't revenge. It was revelation. A moment of clarity. For them. For me. For everyone who's ever been underestimated. I walked to the head of the table and took my seat. "Let me be clear," I said. "This isn't personal. We brought you in because our team vets talent fairly. We review experience, skill, and fit. Nothing else." I looked each of them in the eye. "But since you're here, I want you to understand what this company really stands for." They stayed silent. I continued. UpNexus was built by people who got told no. People who were overlooked, underestimated, laughed at. People like me. We didn't climb a ladder. We built our own floor. Kara looked shaken, but composed. "I didn't know. I mean, if I'd realized it was your company." I raised a hand to stop her. "That's exactly the point. You didn't know. You never asked." Jason tried to recover. "I mean, look, Daniel. This is incredible. I'd be honored to work under you." "With me," I corrected. "Not under." He nodded too quickly. I could tell he still didn't get it. "I'll be honest with you," I said, turning serious. "Our team didn't feel you were the right fit. Not because of what happened back then, but because of what you showed today. You're not curious. You're not collaborative. You're not prepared." Jason flinched, but said nothing. Kara lowered her eyes. "So, that's it?" I nodded. "That's it." Dr. Brenner stood. "Thank you for the opportunity," he said quietly, voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. They filed out slowly, without shaking hands. As the door clicked shut, I sat alone for a moment, letting the quiet settle. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. I'd spent years building this company from ashes, nights working through code, shipping product, pitching to investors who barely gave me 5 minutes. I'd watched my mother die without seeing me make it, and I'd carried that guilt like a stone in my chest. But this moment, this was the release. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. Same skyline, same noise. But now it looked different, brighter, realer. Because I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. Not to them, not to anyone. I had already done it. Later that week, I signed the rejection letters myself. No templates, no HR filter. Just me, a quiet office, and a glass of scotch I barely touched. To Kara, I wrote, "We're looking for candidates with vision. Wishing you clarity in your next steps." She had talent. Charm, too. But vision? That required seeing beyond the surface, something she never bothered to do. To Jason, "We believe in culture fit. At OpNexus, humility matters just as much as experience." He'd never get it. To him, the game was always about status, not substance. People like him think charisma can substitute for character. To Dr. Brenner, "Thank you for applying. Please continue innovating." That one made me smirk. A man who once thought I didn't belong in his lab, now trying to get into mine. I sealed each envelope by hand. Not because I was being petty, but because I knew what it meant to receive a letter that sticks with you. The kind that rewires your memory of someone. They'd remember these. A week later, I stood backstage at the North Shore Tech Innovators Summit, an event I never thought I'd be invited to, let alone headline. 10 years ago, I was just a dropout. Now I was delivering the keynote speech. Funny how full circle becomes a spotlight. They introduced me as the founder and CEO of OpNexus, a pioneer in AI-driven logistics, a former student of North Shore Tech, a builder. That last word meant the most to me. As I stepped onto the stage, the lights hit hard. The applause was louder than I expected. For a second, I scanned the crowd. And there they were. Kara, sitting near the center aisle, arms crossed too tightly. Jason, in the row behind her, nodding like he'd always been a fan. Dr. Brenner, further back, pretending to be focused on his notes, but clapping stiffly like protocol demanded it. I almost laughed. They had no choice now. They had to clap. For the dropout. For the guy in the rented suit. For the man they once wrote off. I took the mic, waited for the crowd to settle, and began. When I left North Shore Tech, I had nothing but a half-baked idea and a sick parent. I wasn't the smartest in the room. I wasn't the most connected. I wasn't even on track to graduate. A pause. Let it land. But I learned something early. You don't need approval to start building. You don't need applause to keep going. You just need a reason that's strong enough to survive the silence. I could feel the shift in the room. Some students leaned forward. Others nodded slowly. The professors who once didn't know my name were now scribbling mine into notebooks. And in the back of the room, behind the polished smiles and clinking lanyards, I saw Kara lower her eyes. Jason scratched the back of his neck. Dr. Brenner didn't blink once. I continued. At OpNexus, we didn't build a company to impress anyone. We built it because the world needed a better way to move forward. Faster, smarter, fairer. And we staffed it with people no one else believed in. People like me. That line hit hardest, because in that moment, every misfit in the room suddenly sat a little straighter. I closed with this. If you're sitting out there wondering if you're qualified to start, let me be clear. You don't need to be qualified. You just need to begin. The world doesn't change because someone gives you permission. It changes because you stop waiting for it. Standing ovation. Not everyone meant it, but enough did. As I stepped off stage, a line of students started forming. They wanted to ask questions, shake hands, get advice. I gave them all the time I could. But I kept an eye on the 3 ghosts from my past. They didn't come up to me. They couldn't. Kara walked out quickly, head down, phone in hand like a shield. Jason tried to linger near a group of investors, but left when no one recognized him. Dr. Brenner nodded at me from across the room, but I didn't nod back. Not out of spite. Just accuracy. Because I wasn't there for them. I was there for the kid in the back row. The one who asked if I ever thought about quitting. The one who said his grades were slipping because his dad was in the hospital and he didn't know if he'd make it through the semester. I told him I'd been there, and that I'd still made it. That night, after the summit, I drove past the old apartment where I used to live. 1 bedroom, thin walls, Wi-Fi that cut out during Zoom calls with investors. I used to think I had to escape that place to be successful. Now, I know better. You don't escape the past. You transform it. They used to see a dropout, a nobody, a failure wrapped in excuses, a kid who couldn't cut it. I still remember the looks people gave me, those slow, lingering glances that said more than words ever could. That quiet judgment, the way they'd tilt their heads just slightly, offer a forced smile, and say things like, "You're doing what's best for your family," which was just code for, "You gave up." They saw me leave school and thought that was the end of the story. What they didn't see, what no one saw, was the grind that followed. The years of work in the shadows. The nights I coded in borrowed office space with flickering lights and broken chairs. The mornings I'd wake up on a friend's couch, brush my teeth with bottled water, and head out wearing the same hoodie I'd worn 3 days in a row. Not because I didn't care, but because I had to choose between buying groceries and paying for a new server. I didn't complain. I didn't post about the hustle. I didn't try to prove anything to anyone. I kept my head down and did the work. I took every insult, every rejection, every door slammed in my face, and I used it. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's just the sound of building something so real, so undeniable, that one day the same people who looked past you will have no choice but to look up. Now they don't see a dropout. They see a founder, a CEO, the man behind the company whose offer letters they'd kill for. The same people who said, "You'll never make it in tech without a degree," are now applying to the company I built from scratch. The same classmates who once laughed when I told them I wanted to create my own platform are now lining up for interviews, hoping I've forgotten what they said. And I have forgotten some of it, honestly. Not out of mercy, out of focus, because I was too busy building something worth more than revenge. OpNexus isn't just a company, it's proof. Proof that the underdog doesn't just survive, they build empires. Proof that you don't need a fancy resume if your work speaks louder than your credentials. People ask me all the time, "How did you do it?" And the truth is, I stopped trying to be liked. I stopped trying to be chosen. I stopped waiting to be invited to the table. I built my own. And then I made it so damn solid that now everyone wants a seat. They thought they were writing my ending. But I was just writing chapter 1. Now they watch interviews I give and post about it. They mention my name in meetings to feel closer to the fire. They show up at events where I speak, not because they believe in the mission, but because they want proximity to success. I see through it, and I don't need to call it out, because the power isn't in proving them wrong anymore. The power is in having built something so right that their opinions no longer matter. The real flex isn't the valuation. It's not the headlines. It's not even the standing ovations or the magazine covers. The real flex is knowing that the same people who once looked down on you now lower their voices when you walk in. The real flex is the quiet, the calm confidence that you don't need to remind anyone who you are. They know. They just won't say it out loud. because saying it would mean admitting they were wrong. About me. About everything. Now, when I walk through our campus, I don't feel like I made it. I feel like I'm making it. Every day. Brick by brick. Person by person. I look around and see people who were passed over at other companies, thriving in positions of leadership here. I see interns who never finished college launching tools that change how the industry moves. I see a culture that isn't built on pedigree. It's built on purpose. This isn't about me anymore. It's about what's possible. It's about giving the next version of me, the kid who's tired, overlooked, barely holding it together, a blueprint. A reason not to give up. A reminder that building in silence isn't a weakness. It's a strategy. Because while they were busy chasing job titles, I was busy solving problems. While they were polishing LinkedIn bios, I was shipping product. While they were laughing at me from their corner offices, I was laying the foundation for something they'd one day wish they were a part of. And now? Now the silence works both ways. I don't say much in those rooms anymore. I don't need to. Because now, they're the ones filling the quiet, trying to explain to their bosses why they let me slip through, trying to get a referral, trying to find a way into the place they never thought I could build. And I let them try. Because I'm still silent, still focused, still building. But this time, they're the ones on the outside, waiting to be let in.